The wind howled through the skeletal trees, carrying the faint, heart-wrenching sobs of a child abandoned in the dead of night. In a forgotten alley, tucked between crumbling brick walls and overflowing dumpsters, a little girl named Lily crouched, her thin frame shivering in a tattered dress. Barely 6 years old, her tear-streaked face glistened under the dim flicker of a distant street lamp. Her parents, consumed by addiction and cruelty, had left her here hours ago, their slurred voices fading into the darkness with a final, chilling promise, "You're better off gone." Lily clutched her only possession, a frayed stuffed bunny named Mr. Whiskers, and whispered through chattering teeth, "Someone will come. Someone has to." Miles away, Daniel Harper sat alone in his cluttered apartment, the weight of the world pressing against his chest. A widower at 35, he was drowning in grief and unpaid bills. 2 years ago, cancer had stolen his wife, Sarah, leaving him to raise their infant son, Ethan, alone. Daniel worked double shifts at a warehouse, barely scraping by, his hands calloused and his heart heavy. Each night, he stared at Sarah's photo on the nightstand, whispering apologies for the life he couldn't give their son. Tonight, though, something restless stirred in him. Unable to sleep, he grabbed his coat and decided to walk, hoping the cold air might clear the fog in his mind. Lily's sobs grew weaker as the night deepened. Her tiny body ached from hunger, and the alley's damp chill seeped into her bones. She tried calling out for help, but the few passers-by hurried past, their eyes averted. Fear clawed at her, whispering that no one cared, that she'd been left to die. Yet, even in her despair, she clung to a flicker of hope, remembering her grandmother's stories about angels who appeared when all seemed lost. She hugged Mr. Whiskers tighter, praying for a miracle. Daniel's walk led him through the city's rougher edges, where neon signs buzzed and shadows lingered. He wasn't sure why he'd chosen this route. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was Sarah's voice in his head, urging him forward. As he passed a narrow alley, a faint sound stopped him cold. A child's cry, soft but piercing, cut through the wind. His heart raced. He peered into the darkness, spotting a small figure curled against a wall. "Hey," he called gently, stepping closer. "Are you okay?" Lily flinched at the voice, her eyes wide with fear. She'd learned to distrust adults, their promises often laced with pain. But something in Daniel's voice, warm, steady, like her grandmother's, made her pause. She looked up, her green eyes meeting his brown ones, and saw no anger, only concern. I'm Lily," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They left me." Daniel's stomach twisted. He knelt beside her, noticing her pale skin and the way she shivered. "Who left you, sweetheart?" he asked, though he dreaded the answer. Lily's story spilled out in broken fragments, her parents' neglect, their screams, the moment they drove away, leaving her with nothing but Mr. Whiskers. Daniel's jaw clenched. He'd seen hardship, but this was a cruelty he couldn't fathom. Without hesitation, he shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "Come with me." The first challenge came immediately, trust. Lily hesitated, her small hand trembling as Daniel offered it. She'd been betrayed too many times. Daniel, sensing her fear, sat beside her, keeping his distance. "I've got a little boy at home," he said softly. "His name's Ethan. He's 2, and he loves bunnies like yours." Lily's grip on Mr. Whiskers loosened slightly, and after a long moment, she nodded. Daniel carried her to his battered car, his mind racing. He wasn't equipped for this, barely managing as a single dad, let alone taking in a stranger's child. But leaving her wasn't an option. At his apartment, Daniel faced the next hurdle, immediate needs. Lily was starving, dehydrated, and terrified. He warmed up leftover soup, coaxing her to eat while Ethan slept in the next room. She ate slowly, her eyes darting nervously, as if expecting the food to be snatched away. Daniel's heart ached. He thought of Sarah, who'd always dreamed of helping others. She'd know what to do, he muttered to himself. For now, he focused on making Lily feel safe, setting up a blanket nest on the couch and sitting nearby until she fell asleep, clutching Mr. Whiskers. The next morning brought a new challenge, the system. Daniel knew he had to report Lily's abandonment, but the thought of her being swallowed by foster care terrified him. He'd heard stories, kids shuffled between homes, some as bad as the ones they'd escaped. He called a social worker, Ms. Carter, who arrived with a clipboard and a kind but weary smile. She listened to Lily's story, her face hardening at the details. "We'll need to place her temporarily," Ms. Carter said. "Unless you're willing to be her emergency foster parent." Daniel froze. Him? A foster parent? He barely had enough for Ethan. Yet, looking at Lily, now playing quietly with Ethan's blocks, he felt a pull he couldn't explain. "What do I need to do?" he asked. The process was daunting: paperwork, background checks, home visits. Daniel's apartment was small, his finances tight. Ms. Carter warned him about the emotional toll, especially given Lily's trauma. But Daniel saw something in Lily, a resilience that reminded him of Sarah, a spark that refused to die. He agreed to try, starting with temporary custody while the authorities searched for Lily's parents, who'd vanished into the city's underbelly. The emotional challenges were the hardest. Lily had nightmares, waking up screaming for parents who'd never come. Daniel, exhausted from work, stayed up with her, reading stories or humming songs Sarah used to sing. Ethan, too young to understand, sensed Lily's sadness and toddled over with his toys, offering silent comfort. Daniel struggled with his own grief, wondering if he was enough for two broken kids. Doubts gnawed at him. Could he afford this? Was he strong enough? But each time Lily smiled, a rare, fleeting gift, he found the will to keep going. Weeks turned into months. Daniel faced practical hurdles, stretching his budget for extra food, clothes, and school supplies for Lily. Neighbors pitched in, donating books and toys, moved by Daniel's quiet determination. Ms. Carter helped navigate subsidies, but the system was slow, and Daniel often felt alone. Still, he pushed forward, enrolling Lily in school, where her love for drawing blossomed. Her pictures, bright, hopeful scenes of families and sunshine, became a beacon for Daniel, proof that she was healing. The biggest challenge came when Lily's parents resurfaced, demanding her back. They'd been arrested for petty theft, claiming they'd changed. Daniel's heart sank. He'd grown to love Lily like his own, and she called him Papa now, a word that both warmed and terrified him. At the custody hearing, Lily clung to Daniel, sobbing, "Don't let them take me." Ms. Carter testified about the parents' history, and Lily's teacher shared how far she'd come. Daniel, voice steady despite his fear, spoke of the home he'd built for her. The judge, moved by Lily's fear in Daniel's bond with her, terminated parental rights, granting Daniel permanent guardianship. By the time Lily turned 7, she was a different girl, still quiet, but with a laugh that filled the apartment. Daniel, too, had changed. The weight of grief hadn't vanished, but it was lighter, shared with Lily and Ethan. They became a family, imperfect but fierce. Daniel framed Lily's drawings, hanging them beside Sarah's photo. "You'd be proud," he whispered to Sarah one night, tears in his eyes. The story of Lily and Daniel spread through their community, a quiet testament to hope. They faced poverty, trauma, and a broken system, but love, stubborn, relentless love, carried them through. For every child left to cry in the dark, their story whispered a promise: someone, somewhere, might be listening. And for every struggling soul like Daniel, it offered a truth: sometimes, saving another saves you too.